Hello, I'm Effie Pilarino, and I have the pleasure today to have in my company Dr. Mihaela Ulieru from Washington. Hi, Mihaela, how are you?
Hi, Effie. Always good to be with you and to catch up. Always, I'm one of your greatest fans of your work. I'm one of your most avid followers of your news. It's your work is amazing. So thank you for all what you do.
Thank you, Dr. Mihaela, and always great seeing you every year in Davos. Let me introduce you properly to our audience. Dr. Mihaela Ulieru is the president of the Impact Institute for the Digital Economy and much more. We were just talking about her being the alchemist for SingularityNet, but today, we're going to be talking about another interesting project that she's involved in leading, which is the SOV, the stable currency of the Republic of the Marshall Islands. Did I say it correctly, Mihaela, or
no, absolutely. And SOV is the abbreviated version of the Sovereign Currency Act, which was adopted by the Marshall Islands government in the beginning of 2018. So this is an official decision and approved endeavor by the government of the Marshall Islands to develop a fiat currency on blockchain. And fiat currency means you pay your taxes, you are accepted everywhere at every merchant, you pay your duties to whoever you owe something. So it is an alternative to the US dollar, which is currently the currency of the Marshall Islands. And this is historical, with historical implications. But yes, you said it correctly. So the short is the SOV. That is, I give you one SOV or three SOVs. So it is about the sovereign currency.
So this is already, the act is already 2 years old. And can I think of it as a native stable coin that is not pegged to an existing currency, correct?
I even do not know if we think of it in those terms. It is definitely not pegged to an existing currency. It stands on its own, and it has a particular design of its own. And we actually build on the ability of blockchain to embed on-chain rules and regulations, as well as in smart contracts through this programmable money ability. We are embedding, in fact, the nation's values on blockchain. So what do I mean by this is every year there will be a 4% money supply, like following the X% rule of Milton Friedman. And that 4% is distributed automatically via smart contracts, a percentage to every citizen of the Marshall Islands in form of universal basic income, if you want to look at it this way. A percentage into a climate fund, because the Marshall Islands are the first ones who are going to be underwater if we continue in this way. A percentage to the nuclear fund, because there is a legacy there of the US having done a lot of nuclear experiments in those waters, and people have to recover. And so this is related to the health system as well. And then, various other funds. There is a trust fund and so on and so forth. But all this is done automatically. So you really trust that is happening, and it is happening as the people of that country are deciding. So in a democratic manner. So you can trust that system, because the trust is in the design of the blockchain. So that's how we looked at it. So we didn't look at a basket of currencies like the Libra, or to peg it to the US dollar or other. So it is simply pegged on its own value.
And very interesting, because as you said, it is programmable money that is not just about payments or remittances or anything of that nature, but it also takes into account the issues, the social issues, which are related to climate change locally and to the nuclear experiments that have been going on the islands, right?
Correct. And just to come back to your thing about the value of the currency, so we are establishing that right now. So actually, we have decided to release the currency as a time release schedule. So first, we are going to sell so-called pre-solve units to various investors and interested parties in order to establish, and we will put the pre-solves on exchanges, on regulated exchanges around the world, so that we really establish a value for the money in advance of its release to the people of the Marshall Islands, which will happen 1 year from now. So now we are in this time release stage. So just to continue that.
Very interesting. So we're talking about a stable supply, but not fixed, as you explained to us, with a fixed inflation rate or supply schedule. Correct.
Correct. And we are advised by Peter Ditus, who is the former general manager of actually chief economist of the Bank of International Settlements. So he really knows this stuff. So he advised us also on this time release. He advised us also on the 4%. So yes, exactly.
Yeah, sure. So these are not just random numbers. So would it be correct to call this a CBDC, a central bank digital currency?
We avoid that kind of denomination. Mm-hmm. This currency is being actually released by our foundation. So it is called the Soft Development Foundation, which has a governance structure, which we believe, because Peter does not believe, like I don't believe, in central banks models anymore. But maybe if they go with digital currencies, they will become better and more accountable. However, we are using this particular governance model of the foundation. We have two people from the Marshall Islands high-level government, the Minister of Finance and other representative. So two people from that, two people from the sovereign, which is actually SBV Technologies. So it is the company which is developing the technology for this blockchain on which the currency will be released. And three international luminaries are going to be on this governance board. So only through their agreement and vote, new money will be released, as well as new decisions every year, how they will be distributed. If you want to call that a central bank, be my guest, but we call it a foundation.
Okay. It's clear. It's not a central bank digital currency, but there is this foundation with this kind of governance structure, and I assume there is some governance that talks about how that could change and who has the rights to vote for that and so on. Correct?
Correct, totally. And I have to tell you, this governance structure is pretty. It's a very sophisticated governance structure. So we have a lot of entities deciding and involved there. So we have the Legal Tender Committee, we have the Ministry of Finance, the SOV Administrative Authority, the Soft Development Foundation, which I mentioned to you, and the SFB Technologies, this independent consultant to the government, which was contracted by the Marshall Islands government in 2018 to actually develop and release this new currency for the country.
Very
So,
interesting, and it is clearly very unique. Is
yeah.
there any other country or municipality, if you want, or small sovereignty that you think comes close to this type of sovereign coin that the
Uh,
Marshall Islands are launching?
yeah, actually not, and this is our ambition. Our ambition is to develop the most libertarian currency in the world. So, in this regard, this is what this is. So, it is a libertarian currency. And actually, we are building a new way of designing money, which can be adopted. So, we put actually this is our first, let's call it sandbox, yes, because it is kind of very appropriate for such a thing, also time-wise, because so far the Marshall Islands were receiving $23 million every day from the U.S. as reparations for their nuclear test in their waters. So that will sunset in 2023, and as such, the Marshall Islands is getting ready to embark on their own currency with their own values in it. Plus, it is a decentralized country on thousands of islands, and how they manage money now is cash on boat. So if there's a storm or the boat capsizes, bye-bye the cash, So it's really needed. But on the other side, it's also not very big. It has 55,000 people. 1,000, yeah. So it's it's hard for us to think, country with that amount of people, but that makes it absolutely implementable, and also for us to prove to the world that this is working, and then to go on and help other countries who want to release their own digital currency. The US is working on the digital dollar, as you know from Davos. I mean, Christopher Giancarlo, the former CFTC head, he retired and started this project, the digital dollar, which is more or less a think tank at the moment. But the long-term goal is, so now to engage with all the entities here in the US, but in the long run to deploy the digital dollar. Of course, China is also thinking about the digital yuan and so on and so forth. And not to mention the island nations in the Caribbean and others who can benefit from our experience as well. But of course, it has to be adapted to everyone's needs. And therefore, a nation's values embedded in the currency. And those values are very different. But I think that is a big advantage because, as you know, Bernard Lietaer was hoping that we would have a higher and larger variety of currencies. And that is, in his vision, that was the only way to stop the cycles, continuous cycles of the financial crisis. So we are hoping that in this way we can really design better money. That's why the way of thinking of central bank and how the Bretton Woods models and so on and so forth, these are outdated. So we need a new way of thinking about exchanging value to make it more organic to what is value for humanity and for every nation. So I think that this project is really the beginning of something really huge.
And what I hear from you is both through the component of addressing the UBI and climate change and the nuclear issue that are important for the Marshall Islands. What I'm hearing is that this design can be adapted, and it is a way to transition out of the trap of quantitative easing that the whole developed world has been trapped in, but at the same time designing something that takes into account our social issues, which are different for each country. That's really the only way to do this.
Exactly. You nailed it, Effie. I told it in a book and you nailed it in a paragraph. Thank you.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
tell me something, Mihaela, is this white paper updated design open source? Can we?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find it online. It is at sov.foundation.
Okay.
So if you go online, you will find the white paper there. You will also find a lot of other information, especially that now we are releasing for investors the pre-sovs units, as we were mentioning, and we are now in discussions with SEC here in the US and similar entities around the world to determine if we can actually have customers from those countries. Like, for example, we decided to not have customers from the US. The US citizens cannot invest in the SOV pre-solves, let's call it this way, the units. Unfortunately, because we did not come to terms with the regulatory body here, but we are in discussions. So let's see how this unfolds. But I think there are enough countries which are very advanced and their mindset is much more progressive, and then we will enable investors from those countries.
But would am I thinking of this correctly, that natural investors for pre-sov would be countries that have trade relationships with the Marshall Islands? And are there such countries beyond the US, or have the Marshall Islands been sort of captive of the US in terms of trade?
So far, this was the reality, and that is one of the reasons why it is called the sovereign. So they boldly are making a statement now, because they have been, as you mentioned, historically kind of a U.S. Associated territory, but then they got their sovereignty, and now that the U.S. is stopping the payments. Of course, they inherited the dollar, which is not aligned with their values at all. And they always are kind of wondering and scratching their heads whenever a financial crisis is happening, because definitely they have nothing to do with it. So that's why they decided to have this, and I could not stress enough this word. So we're talking about this libertarian currency. So that means, the SOV is the most politically independent and libertarian currency in the world. So the idea is that we are following strictly the needs of the people of the Marshall Islands there. And as such, we do not, from our perspective, yes, we do not care where the investors come from, as long as it's legal for them to invest in sovereign. Yes. So.
Okay. Dr. Mihaela, thank you so much for enlightening us with this amazing venture that is soon to be live. And
thank you so much for the opportunity. And as always, I must say your questions are absolutely, are amazing and challenging, and they made me think as well and clarify even more about our purpose. I appreciate that, but also for your listeners, keep an eye open and follow sov.global and sov.foundation, so you hear more about when our sale starts and if you can or not be a part of our success.
100%. And I'm more curious to look in understanding the Marshall Islands, the 55,000 people. Is it an aging population? What are their main occupations? What do they import? And really understanding that part and going deeper on the design of this currency. That is
I'm thinking, Effie, now that you are, I'm going to throw it out there. I didn't talk to the team or anyone, but, I believe one of the three luminaries we are still looking for them around the world, but you definitely are on our list. And, so we can talk about that. I will send you more information. So, one of the three luminaries to be on our foundation and as a governance of the foundation to make decisions. And so, the Marshall Islands is the largest tuna port in the world and the second home for ships traveling the world. So it has an important economic role in the world, although there's very few people. And I will send you more information in anticipation of working together with you as an advisor to the foundation.
And maybe we can link it to the shipping world, which, as we all know, is connected with Greece. And we make a link to that too. Why not?
Fantastic. You are right. I almost forgot, given that I know you are in Switzerland. I forgot your origins are actually, yes.
The origin, yes.
Navigation and yes.
Exactly, but of course with always international flags. That is why it is amazing to talk to you, because this is not a preset conversation. It has led us to several ideas. Thank you so much, and thanks to everybody listening to us.
Thank you.